So, like I'm saying, I'm Mr. Wilder from the Honors College, and this is Dean San and Jules. We both work in the academic advising department. Today, we're going to tell you about developmental advising that we do in the Honors College.
Thank you again so much. And thank you for your patience and kind of getting this started. So, we'll talk to you a little bit about the Honors College and how it developed. I think that's probably the most foundational thing about our model is how we first formed. So, for those of you who've been around for a while, you know that we had all the different colleges, and the different colleges had their own honors programs. And then, under transforming undergraduate education, we all came together, and then there were smaller honors programs. Had the SAS honors program. Engineering still had their honors academies. SEB still had their honors program. So there were several different things around. But then President Barchi decided that he also wanted to have something to help recruit and retain more students within the state of New Jersey. So he wanted an honors college on the campus, on each of the three campuses. So there's an honors college here in New Brunswick. There's one in Camden, and Newark has both an honors college and an honors living learning community. So when we first began with the honors college, it was really difficult to figure out how to do the advising model. So there are lots of things, of course, that we do as advisors, but it was also very important that we coordinate with all of the different schools. So here in New Brunswick, we work with the Mason Groves School of the Arts, the School of Pharmacy, the Business School, the School of Engineering, SAS, of course. So we have all of those different schools that are working with us. So it's very important that each of us know the requirements for those schools. So the way that we have it set up is we have an advisor, and every advisor is responsible for working with the Honors College requirements of that particular school. And of course, the Honors College requirements differ slightly among the schools. So that makes it a little more difficult too. But our main focus is on making sure that students, regardless of their school, know what their particular honors college requirements are. So when we would develop this model, we really were trying to look at what were the best practices of all the other existing honors programs, and also looking at some of the other programs that worked among the schools. So one of the big places that we looked was the DRC, because the DRC has students from every school, so they really helped us. And also EOF was a wonderful model in thinking about how the Honors College developed. So that's important just to know a little bit of the background context. So we can go ahead to the next slide.
Great. So, student development through advising, as Dean San and Jules just told you about, each Honors College student is assigned to a specific advisor based on their interest in their school of enrollment. So when a student first comes to the Honors College, from the first day, even a little bit before then, they know who their advisor is going to be. And this is so unique because each advisor becomes a specialist. So we talked about partnerships through different schools. So we go to the individual schools, accept the students' days, any capstone presentations and information sessions. We really build a good relationship from us to each school, and it makes our advising team stronger because they are also working with the advisors from the other schools. It's almost like a point-to-point contact from us to an actual individual. So, for example, let's say that the School of Business has an update to students that we offer. We're actually in those meetings updating the students as well, right? So again, we take a developmental approach. I know myself as an advisor, I always say I want my students to know just as much as I do. They should really be in the driver's seat of their education and of their courses and what they want to work towards in their 4 years at the Honors College. So two theories that we always stress are Chickering 7 vectors and Perry's theory. We really want our students to develop not only as students, but as individuals. So just a quick overview. We really focus on the third point of moving through autonomy towards interdependence, and also to developing integrity. So we want our students to really be the driving force of their academic. So we kind of move through a couple phases. with students, and you'll see that in our second theory. So it'll start with like dualism. So a lot of our students, especially at the Honors College, they want to know the facts. They want to get perfect scores on the test. A lot of our conversations starting out are right or wrong, yes and no, right? And we move forward to multiplicity, and this happens very, very fast, right? And then we go to relativism, and the relativism, excuse me, and this is really where our honors college advising style comes through, whereas that we are just advisors and we want to put them in the best position to succeed, but at the end of the day, their decision is final, and they have to own that decision. So we really want to work towards the commitment phase, where our students are saying, "How can I do this? Because this is what I want to do, and how can you help me get there? And whether I get there or not, it's up to me. But you provided me with all the tools to be successful." And our students really like this phase, and it usually happens around like the beginning of junior, end of junior year, because they feel very empowered, and it also creates a commitment with them going back to their school. So when we lay out a roadmap for them, and they pick their destination, they know I have to talk to this person and this school and that, and they really take ownership, and they definitely appreciate that. So something that makes the Honors College very, very unique is our use of international embedded program. And in our faculty and residents, we actually have two, sometimes three faculty members that actually live in the Honors College with all the students. It creates a unique dynamic to where students feel more attached to their studies. And there's another level of education that goes on. So now we're learning in the classroom, but also when we go home in the common areas, they can ask a question whenever. The faculty and residents, they hold programs and host students throughout the whole year. So it's really like a holistic learning that students get inside the classroom and also outside the classroom. Another thing that we offer is our international experiences. So every student is required to take a seminar by the end of their sophomore year, and some of these seminars have a travel component. So in conjunction with the SAS Honors program, we cultivate these programs with professors that are teaching these seminar courses. So 3 credits here, and then when the students have a break, they actually go to the countries where the subject topic takes place. So some places that we've been, I've been South Africa, Brazil, Spain, France, Poland, Ireland, and the DR, just to name a couple. And we're trying to get to a lot more countries, just another added level of education that the students get. So of course you can learn something in the classroom, but to see it in person adds another depth. And then we have our student affairs. So again, for the Honors College, one of our requirements is that they have a community service. And unfortunately, due to the pandemic, some of those opportunities have been sparse. So we went and created these change-making communities. So what this is communities that students can join virtually for 150 students maximum, where they can learn, where they can earn, community service hours through online initiatives and for volunteering online. It really is a way that we've shifted this community-based aspect of the Honors College to something virtual, and students can pick one of the 6 communities to be a part of based off of their interest. This is another way that, although we're limited on space and we're limited on face-to-face contact, that we still connect with the students and give the students a chance to connect with each other.
This part, I wanted to talk a little bit about some of the things that have been happening with the Honors College. So the Honors College has now been around for about 6 years. And in those 6 years, there have been a lot of challenges and a lot of opportunities for growth. So of course, we're going through the same things that everybody else is going through with the pandemic. It's been very difficult to connect with students. it offers a very just different way of even connecting with students too, because in some ways it's more personal because you're actually looking into someone's life, right? So you're looking into, usually the students are in their bedrooms, right? So you're usually looking into their life in that way. So that's been just different, and it's a lot harder for students to connect. And especially for our students who haven't been on campus at all, they don't really understand some of the more common language. We've had more difficulties in sort of explaining some of the processes like WebReg, where usually we can explain that, but then there's also upperclassmen, and the upperclassmen are able to sort of show them how to do it, or someone can just stop by if they're really stuck. So that's been a challenge. Another thing that we've learned, or that we've been going through in the Honors College too, in terms of a challenge, is actually something that I was dealing with earlier today. As part of the Honors College, we are responsible for their Honors College requirements, but we don't have the final decision on the students graduating from their individual schools. So sometimes that's a little difficult too. We work very well, I think, with our partner schools, but we don't have the final decision-making power. And I think what makes it especially difficult for us too is to know how and when we're being effective too, because the way that a student will see sometimes whether or not something is effective is whether or not they're getting what they want, or what they, I would say what they need, but it's sometimes more what they want or what they think that they need from a particular relationship or situation. So if a student is looking to do something like extend their graduation date, but they're not allowed to extend their graduation date, and that's something that happens from the school and not from the Honors College. But in the student's mind, it's sometimes hard to still be there for them, and have them recognize that we are working with them, but we don't control all the policies, right? We don't have that kind of power to just sort of change situations. So that's something I think that we're always working through and trying to figure out. And also just making sure that we work very closely with the school, so we're sticking with them and with their core values, and making sure that we're up to date, as Rob had mentioned before, with our requirements. But I would say that the biggest thing that has been going on with the Honors College, and it reflects the world as a whole right now, is what's on our next slide, if you could. So diversity and inclusion. So we have wonderful students. I mean, Rutgers in general has wonderful students. Our students in the Honors College particularly have really been attuned to social justice issues and thinking about diversity and inclusion, and whether or not that's something that's reflected within the walls of the Honors College. So they've been doing a lot of work in this area in different ways. So we're talking about everything from the way that a student feels walking into the building. Rutgers is a very historic place. So a lot of different campuses have done things in terms of looking at the statues and the landmarks that are within a campus. And they've done the same thing in the Honors College, right? Who do you see in the Honors College? What does it look like? Do we just have the same pictures of Paul Robeson and James Dickinson Carr, like the same pictures you see everywhere at Rutgers? So they're looking at things like that and bringing up discussions about those things and really pushing for some changes. So it's been really good working with them too. We've updated and expanded the Honors College mission statement to reflect our values more. One of the other things we're doing is really taking a deep dive into the curriculum. And that's been really interesting, really good, and really hard in a lot of ways too, because we do work with so many schools. So any changes that we make to the curriculum still has to fit into the requirements of the school and not necessarily overburden the student in terms of graduating. So we've done a lot of things there. And if you have questions at the end, we can talk about that more later. Do you want to go ahead to the next one? Okay, thank you. And then also just thinking about advising, and especially honors advising, all the national trends. So we've already talked about COVID and the impact of COVID. This has really hurt us in terms of students who are doing internships, tutorials, students who are doing their capstone projects. All of those students are required to do a capstone, but many have not been able to get any of the research done that they need to. So that part's been hard if they're in a lab. And just in terms of national trends, that's something to really think about too. So national trends for college students in general, we're down by 2.5% from last year. So that's pretty major. So our numbers are much smaller than they've ever been before. And of course, already nationally, it's trending that there's lower numbers of 18-year-olds that'll be coming to college. So already we were looking at a dip in enrollment. And now also with the pandemic, that's also caused more students to rethink their plans. So in some ways, we had more students who were thinking about staying in New Jersey if they're from New Jersey, but many more of those students opted to be very close to home or to do a county college, or sometimes students just had a very hard time adjusting in doing classes online. I think for this year's incoming class that we have, for this incoming class of 2021, these students will have done online education for 18 months by the time they get here. So it's been a very difficult situation. Another thing is just the issue of trust. Trust is something that is more of a national issue in thinking about it this way, because it used to be that people really looked at college as a place that people would go to. They would be able to expand their opportunities and careers and make more money and earn a better living or lifestyle than what their parents were able to do. And that's not necessarily the case anymore. And many times parents are looking at it and families are looking at it in terms of a cost benefit analysis. And, do we really trust that this education is worth it? So that's something that's come up a lot too. And then whenever we're working with students and with honor students, what we come up with also all the time are just issues of elitism, right? So there are many people who feel like honors education is just very elitist, which I think we do a pretty good job at it, but I do understand the criticism that's there. So that's something that we deal with a lot of times, and it's a double-edged sword because on one hand, people are looking at college numbers and statistics to decide whether or not they're going to a college. And then on the other hand, they're saying, no, we shouldn't rely on things like SAT scores. So we're really working to figure out ways to make sure that we're inclusive and that we're fighting against elitism. That's a really tough battle and something I think that we'll be facing for a long time. And it's something that's common with honors programs and colleges across the nation as well. Rob, I'm going to turn it back over to you.
Great. So right now, that's the conclusion of our presentation. I want to say thank you to everyone for coming out, and that we just want to reiterate that the Honors College really is a dynamic department, and that we as advisors are constantly changing and updating our program, because we do have these partnerships with the different schools, and that as Dean Sanjules had just said, the trends are a little bit staggering, but we are adapting with the times, even with moving to a more online based presence.